Let's see if it worked. I did. I clicked start streaming. Ooh, I think it's starting. I'm gonna post out this link to a couple. Oops, not that link. Not that link.
Oh.
The live link. I need the live link.
Were you about to invite people to appear in this?
Yes. Yeah, I was. So, I don't know if anybody will join. I don't think I'm that popular, but it's a fun experiment.
I'll join and watch the live stream.
Hell yeah. I think I revealed my streamer dashboard, but not like my key or anything, so.
Okay.
What is the appropriate hashtag for Google I/O? Even though people have probably
IO 18.
IO 18. And your what's your Twitter handle? Ceresium?
That's right.
Some nerd shit that nobody understands.
Exactly.
All right, IO 18. Praise Jesus. Here we go. Yeah. Who just messaged me? That was you. That's a it's a burb. Okay, so Google I/O 2018 happened and you were there. And it was great.
Yes, I was.
Just give me, first of all, just give me a number rating out of 10 of how Google I/O 2018 was.
So for me, I'm an Android developer. Have been for 5 or 6 months, and it was great for that perspective. They announced a lot of things that'll help me out as a developer, and as a consumer, as someone who uses an Android phone and the Google Assistant and all that. It was pretty good as well. Probably like an 8, 7 or 8.
Cool. That's pretty good. That's all you can really hope for. For me, I guess I haven't paid that much attention to Google I/O in the past, despite being a huge Google fan. But I really, it made a big impression on me because I am pretty skeptical of some of the grandeur around like AI and machine learning, just because it just seems very hard to productize, and I don't think that we're anywhere near, like general AI or whatever. But the Duplex thing, which we'll get to, seemed really, really useful. Like anything that can save me time, I'm really excited about. And then the features with Android where it helps me kind of figure out how much time I'm spending on my phone, maybe even encourage me to spend less time. There's a few features like that. I kind of doubt that they'll actually work. Like, I don't know that anything can get me off of my phone other than throwing it in the ocean, but...
Or someone running into your room and grabbing it out of your hand.
Yes, and I don't think Google...
You could probably hire someone to do that, or a Fiverr.
It's like Google... That's like the real Google Assistant. It's a robot that takes your phone away. Okay. So we're going to go down this list that I have, and it's not in a particularly great order, but we'll make it work. I'm going to move my microphone. Right. So first off is just Google Assistant. A lot of new features. They're kind of a lot of like incremental sort of features, just to keep pushing this out there. Getting it to over 500 million devices, just generally more availability new voices and smart displays. I actually don't know what the smart displays are. Do you know?
Those are kind of like a Google Home Assistant, like a Home Mini or whatever, except they have a screen.
Okay, so Google Home with a screen.
Yeah, the use case they showed off was having one in your kitchen that you could load up recipes on and glance at.
Okay.
Or just like start a video call on one or stuff like that.
I can already tell that I'm going to set off my Google Home and my phone probably too. I know that they showed off the gesture for Android where you like flip over your phone,
right,
and it goes to sleep. Does that work?
I'm not sure. I actually don't have
Android P?
the P beta yet.
Okay. Might as well just go into Android P, I feel like, because a lot of the assistant stuff is cool, but it's really just like incremental stuff. Like, yeah, I'm going to use the John Legend voice probably. Yeah, it's cool that they're putting screens on these devices, but it doesn't strike me as a game changer. Right. It's just
a lot of the announcements that I heard were things that make sense and feel like they should have been there the whole time.
Right.
Which is, I mean, it's good if you're improving a product in that way. That's a great way to do incremental changes. Just improve it by making it, more ideal.
Yep. So Android P, like I said, I actually have it on my phone and just flip my phone over to see if that gesture works. I don't know. So the gesture that I'm talking about is apparently if you flip your phone over, it's do not disturb mode. Yeah. So anyway, developer preview is out. New gesture navigation, network privacy. Starting with Android P, apps will no longer be able to monitor your network activity. Are we excited about that as informed citizens of the 21st century?
I might not have read that. Let me read into that actually.
Well, let's just take it at face value. Yeah. Let's just take it at face value that, as written, apps will no longer be able to monitor your network activity. I'm assuming that, they still can, do network actions that I'm guessing what it means is like your apps can still make network requests and like kind of handle their own network stuff, but they can't monitor anything else you're doing, which by the way, I wasn't really aware that they were doing anyway. So, yeah, I'm glad that they can't do that anymore. I guess like a big theme of late is just in general, people are becoming so much more aware of privacy and these concerns because of, the news and stuff like that. Is that something that you are concerned about personally?
Personally, yeah. I have a Facebook account. Facebook is the big name right now, but I hardly use it, and I'm very careful about installing apps on my phone. Just because even if an app doesn't have any privileges or doesn't ask for any permissions, it still has a baseline that can the baseline privileges and permissions can still violate your privacy.
Yeah, I'm super hesitant about installing things and about giving things like access to my, for example, like Google Drive. Like some apps, and not just like phone apps, but like web apps and services integrate with your Google Drive. And oftentimes they want like so many permissions. They're like, yeah, can I please have access to your entire Google Drive? I'm like, no. Do you really need that? Like all of it? It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Slices. Applications will be able to embed limited functionality in other apps. I actually didn't see this. Did you see this?
That sounds familiar. Let me
It just
Um,
sounds like limited,
oh
like,
yeah. Um, so they already have some of these functionalities hard coded in, but it has to be um, like manually done. So, for example, in the Google Maps app, one of the modes of transportation is ride sharing, and it brings up, hey, you can use Uber or Lyft, and then it deep links into those apps from there, and like gives them the route that you're searching and all that. And this will just be a kind of generic generalization of that pattern, so that instead of Google Maps explicitly saying that, hey, we're going to partner with these two ride sharing apps, um, they'll be able to embed a generic ride sharing app, and then like third party apps can show up in Google Maps as a navigation option.
okay. So it's exactly what it sounds like. And that would only happen after you have them installed?
Presumably, unless it's a partnership thing that's hard coded in like Uber and Lyft are right now.
Okay. Okay, so Android Auto wireless, I guess that's
Yeah, that's
just,
coming this summer. It'll be pretty neat.
what is that exactly?
So right now, Android Auto is a tethered interface where you plug your phone in, and your phone creates like it draws the screen and it creates the interface, and then your head unit is like a second monitor, um, and it needs to be tethered to drive that connection. It needs to be plugged in, and this is just a wireless version of that format.
Oh, sick. Okay. Yeah, that's like another no-brainer. Adaptive screen brightness. I was pretty excited about this, even though it's pretty.
Yeah, I am so hyped for that.
Yeah. I mean, is it just looking at time of day? It's probably looking at a lot of dimensions.
Hmm.
Just your
Yeah.
behavior.
So one thing, like I don't have the developer preview yet, but one thing that gets on my nerves is that the minimum brightness from the current adaptive setting, like if you're in a pitch black room, it's still brighter than manually setting it to zero
Um,
on every phone I've used.
wait, explain. Sorry, explain that again.
So if you're manually controlling the brightness
Yeah.
and you set it to as low as possible,
Mm-hmm.
that level of brightness is lower than it ever gets with um, with the current adaptive brightness on.
Okay. Oh, so this is new adaptive brightness. They already have adaptive brightness.
Yeah. So the current adaptive brightness is just the light sensor, the ambient light sensor, um, tells the phone how bright to set the display at, and you
Oh,
can enable or disable that.
okay. I don't think I have that on, but so do not disturb mode. Is this just the gesture? Oh, most notifications will
Um,
be hidden until you turn do not disturb mode off. Yeah, I noticed.
yeah.
I didn't turn any mode on, but I noticed just installing Android P. Like I started getting like no notifications.
Hmm.
And I think
There, that's one of the like digital well-being goals is to have a do not disturb mode that has less visual distraction instead of just no audio distraction. So they're um, encouraging developers to bundle notifications, um, to send less notifications overall, and that sort of thing.
I think that's so important because I just can't like I don't like the I just don't care about most of it,
Hmm.
and it's just it's extremely obnoxious that everybody thinks that you want to know about their every notification. Should definitely be more of an opt-in pattern.
And every now and then I see like on somebody else's phone a notification bar that's filled that has like 20 icons,
Yep.
and I'm sure you've seen that too, or like in a screenshot someone takes, then a notification bar is full. And when you get so many notifications like that, it's just not a useful feature. There's too much noise.
Yep, absolutely. And then it looks like a bunch of just quality of life stuff. Volken 1.1 graphics API.
Mm-hmm.
That I know Volken is important. I don't really know the details around that. Screenshot editor. Ooh, that I actually really like if it is what I think that it is, because I had a Samsung S8 and I don't really miss it. It was kind of a cool phone, but like it was so feature heavy though. Like it just felt like it's trying to do everything.
Right.
One thing that I do miss is the screenshot editor, where I take a screenshot and then I immediately go into like an editing mode to where, because half the time when I like screenshot like a tweet or something, like I don't really want to share my whole screen. Like I want to crop it down to just like the tweet.
Yeah.
And that was a really nice quality of life feature. And yeah, that looks like about it. Some biometric authentication API.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll. I'll be using that at work, like in the app we're building.
Why is that? That's good context. Explain.
So, one of the things that were, I'm not sure how much I can say because work, but having a standardized biometric authentication like dialogue and workflow will be really great for developers because they get to use that setup instead of developing it themselves, and it's consistent across apps. So, if my mobile banking app and my, anything that requires privileged data,
right,
will have the same interface for interacting with it.
How is this different than, like, my Bank of America app? I think already uses fingerprint.
Right.
Is this different?
Right now, Bank of America is drawing their own screen. Has programmed and is drawing their own screen to ask you to like hit the fingerprint button.
Okay.
Like that is a feature that they've had to program.
Okay.
But this is just a system dialogue that does the same thing.
Okay, so the system dialogue is cool, but sort of the lower level API of just using the authentication API seems to already be there.
Right. Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. That's what I was wondering about. Okay. So AI machine learning. This is the juicy stuff. Juicy stuff.
So Duplex.
Right off the bat. Yeah, Duplex. The most impressive product demonstrated on stage, quote unquote, this website that I'm reading. So I think we're all interested in this. Like, give the summary of what this is.
So the use cases that they gave, say you're booking a reservation at a restaurant or at a haircut place. Normally, you would either use that business's website to book a reservation, or you'd use something that a developer had set up, or you would just call them and talk to a human being, and they would write on a piece of paper or use their own booking system or whatever to book that reservation. So what this is a Google Assistant similar AI that will have that conversation for you. So if you would have to like call a restaurant to ask how late they're open, instead of calling them and asking how late they're open, you would ask Google Assistant, and then Google Assistant would, on your behalf, make that call, find the information, and parse it, then return back to you with an answer.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And if it works as well as it seems like it does, which I have my doubts about, then it will be awesome. I mean, I guess like just that baseline sort of making appointments to restaurants and salons is quite feasible. I'm wondering if it's more for more complicated things, like what I would love for this to do is to stay on the phone with like my phone service's customer support and argue with them about my bill. Like shit like that. That's like Duplex
Yeah.
V2, but that's what I want.
So one thing that they said they're going to be doing is kind of democratizing certain results. So right now, Google is smart enough to scrape store hours from their website. So if you like open their page on Google Maps, it'll tell you, straight up there, these are their hours today, and you can ask Google if this company is open or when do they close, and it'll give you a response. But on holidays like Memorial Day or MLK Day, you know you Google straight up says their schedule might be different for this day. They might not be posting online their modified schedule or whatever. So Google Assistant would be able to make a call to this business and find those hours or find that availability and publish it for everyone. So like if I asked, is Costco open on Easter? Um, if anyone has asked that already, uh, and Costco has answered, then Google Assistant will just tell me yes or no instead of needing to make a call on my behalf or give me iffy information.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes sense. I noticed that we were earlier saying like there weren't any like flashy Google Assistant features or not that many. I guess in a sense this is the flashy feature for Google Assistant. Like Duplex is
Yeah,
not separate from Google Assistant. It's a feature of Google Assistant, right?
um, I think so. Yeah,
It seems like it. I mean, even
it's an integration.
when Sundar was up there, it looks like Google Assistant in the background is
Hmm.
the interface that is making that call. Um, so we've got Gmail Smart Compose. I'm not super excited about this, but it might be cool. Just basically,
Yeah.
it's like autocorrect, but for thoughts, like just trying to finish your
And it'll
thoughts.
it'll be useful for stuff like addresses and lengthy stuff that gets annoying to type out.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be some level of useful, but it's not like it will actually be able to synthesize like your thoughts for you or anything. Um,
Yeah, it won't teach me how to think.
yeah, sadly. Suggested actions on Google Photos. This one looked kind of cool. Just kind of tweaking photos, sending pictures to the
Yeah.
people in the photos. Like, let's say you're on a vacation with your bros, with the homies, and you
Hmm.
got a lot of selfies um, with people, and they're just instantly send them so that they can post them on
Yeah.
on the gram. You know, pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that'll be neat. They're also adding options to automatically like colorize or correct photos. Adding a like fixed brightness button if they detect that your photo has, uh, low brightness or whatever.
Yeah, the
So
colorized thing
that'll be
seems
neat.
awesome.
Yeah. Now that technology's been around for a while, but it's neat to see it integrated.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. And so machine learning kit. Uh, this how is this not just an? It's just an API. Okay, that seems like it's kind of been around. I wonder what is actually different about it this time. Google Lens. This is actually something I'm not super familiar with. Do you-
so Google Lens is um, the kind of a camera assistant. So you can point your camera at something like at the base level a QR code, and it'll read that to you. Or you can point it at text, and it'll do text to speech. One thing that really impressed me is if you take a picture of like a recipe or something, Google Lens will not only do image recognition and be able to read the text out, but it'll turn it into a selectable and copyable field.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and from there, One of the other use cases they gave is imagine you're in a foreign country and you have like a menu or a map or something. You could use Google Lens to point at at the foreign language content, and it'll translate it for you,
That's
and it'll
sick.
place the translated text onto the page, kind of like an AR image.
Hell yeah. That's cool. I can see that being useful. Alphabet
Hmm.
Inc.'s self-driving cars are getting smarter. This one, I guess, was a little bit vague, but basically the AI for the self-driving cars is better.
Yep. They showed off some adverse condition, like noise filtering. So the like snow is really tough for self-driving cars just because you have particles in the air that are highly reflective, and that messes with your sensors. So they showed off a filtering algorithm using AI that cuts through all of that.
Gets through the snow.
Yeah.
That's legit. And then a couple of wearables, I guess, or developer-oriented things.
Hmm.
Is there anything particularly exciting here? I think for
I'm
me,
really yeah. Go on.
well, I was gonna say Flutter. I think is a really cool, uh, I guess SDK. It's
Hmm.
if I recall correctly, it's basically write once, build to both mobile platforms.
Yeah,
I,
and a mobile web, I believe, as well for a
prob-
website,
yeah,
but I'm not sure on that.
yeah, but anything that reduces the friction of developing for multiple platforms is really cool.
Hmm. So the thing about Flutter is that um, it's kind of it's even though it generates native code, it doesn't generate a native interface. It's kind of like Unity in that it's wrapping your non-native code and giving it a runtime. So your app is going to look the same on Android and iOS. It's going to look the same in both places, and it's going to have the same code base, which is great for something like a game.
Right.
Uh, but I'm not sure how usable it'll be outside of that context.
It seemed I researched it before. It seemed pretty impressive, but still beta, I guess. We'll see.
Hmm.
Um, Linux apps on Chrome OS. Google officially announced
Yeah,
Linux app support on Chrome OS.
and that's been kind of coming for a long time. You've already had Crouton, which lets you run like Ubuntu or Arch or whatever inside of a container in Chrome OS.
Right.
And I used that for a few years, and then I just got Arch running natively, um, dual booting alongside Chrome OS. And the Chromebook is a strong like developer platform, especially because of its cost and battery life.
Right.
Um, and I love mine. Uh, I think this is just a reasonable step towards selling that to developers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of stopped me from getting it, just because it seems hard to do things I might want to do on it. Um,
Yeah.
there's a couple.
So one thing that you went past on the list
Yeah.
was Android Jetpack,
Yeah. What is
which
that?
is really exciting to me. It is a um, so it's kind of an upgrade to Android architecture components. Uh, One thing that has been tough about developing on Android is that um, there are a lot of different ways to do the same thing. So
Right.
like handling data and updates in data.
Yeah.
You can use RX, you can use live data, you can use mutable data. There are a lot of ways to handle uh, responsive design around data.
Sure.
And Android architecture components was something that they started off a year or two ago. That would kind of, it's Google stepping in and saying, "Hey, it's too fragmented. Here's our recommended way of doing each of these things, of handling the activity lifecycle, of handling data and network requests and all that. And Android Jetpack is kind of a continuation of that. It's a standardization of how to kind of how to develop on Android.
Seems very useful. Yeah, it's been a while since I did Android development, but I remember these being problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
The other thing, material theming, I'm really excited about. Did you get a look at that?
I did actually. I am a big fan of material design, and it looks like this kind of helps people kind of stay, I guess, in material design, but also get a little bit more creative so that they can kind of make their app feel unique.
Yeah.
Which is a big problem, I think, with material design. Is because I personally love it. I don't really give a shit if every app looks like it. I mean, I do. I don't want every app to be the same, but I just think that it's so far above your average apps or web apps look and feel that the average is already worse than it. So I don't really care if people just adopt it. But this looks like it solves that problem of same, or at least helps push towards a solution of like sameness being a problem.
Yeah, and material design being like supported by Google is great because it's easy to develop in.
Yeah.
A lot of the components are already there. You just have to create them. And material theming is a really good way to like personalize and integrate your brand with material design without having to like leave that.
Yeah, that's cool. Keep your brand identity intact. Looks like it has integrations with Sketch. I don't know what else, but Sketch is already hugely popular in design, so that's cool. There's a couple other things.
Go on.
There's other things that we glossed over, but there's just one other thing I wanted to talk about, which was Lookout. Which there's some accessibility things here, but Lookout helps blind people identify their surroundings. I don't know exactly how it works, but it seems like you just have your phone out, I guess, and it will help. For example, the promo video they did was an artist who is like not quite blind but very visually impaired, and she needed to find the scissors that were in front of her, and Google basically said scissors 12 o'clock and like help her find that. Okay. So this is cool. There's a lot of visually impaired people in the world, and they anything like this that helps them is good.
Yeah, I missed the announcement for that, and I didn't get the chance to try it out. But I did see the Morse code keyboard, which is really neat.
Explain that, because I don't quite get it.
So it's very difficult to input text if you're an impaired person who needs to rely on, like, for example, Morse code to communicate.
Yeah.
And in the video, they showed someone with a muscular impairment that prevented them from doing from making like small motions, and they communicated with Morse code. And this was just an Android keyboard that is built to accommodate hardware, like Morse code hardware, and turns those inputs into just text on your phone.
So basically, if QWERTY is very difficult for you or something like that,
right,
got Morse code.
Mm-hmm.
That's legit. So overall, pretty happy with Google I/O. Seems cool. It is a developer conference, so
right.
As a developer, I guess it was good for you to network with people there.
Mm-hmm. One thing that was really interesting, normally at a conference, if you like go to a booth for a new product or a new idea, and talk to the person there, most of the time you'll be talking to like a salesperson or a manager or like someone who's not like gritty, but they had, the people who worked on the products standing by each of the showcases. So one of the things they announced was a new TensorFlow processor for cloud machine learning and training models. And I went to the AI and machine learning booth and tent and talked to the person who was the manager for the first two TensorFlow projects.
Yep.
And that was cool, like just being able to talk to the person one on one. The same with the Android Things. I got to talk hardware with some of the Android Things developers and kind of get a peek at what's coming up and what to look forward to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I would really like to go next year. I'm looking forward to, now that I'm actually paying a little bit closer attention to this conference, comparing it to next year. I'm sure, there will be cooler things next year. So, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I wish I did more of is I don't think I networked well enough. I didn't really know anybody going in. I didn't really research any people to like seek out and talk to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to get the most out of it is to kind of skip the talks because those are all like online, and just seek out and meet people and kind of get that experience.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it. It's kind of an art and a skill that I'm working on too. For example, I went to Kai 2018, and which is, for people that might be listening, it's a human-computer interaction conference, and it was very, very academic, which is the whole point of it, is people basically showing their papers that they published. But it, as a practitioner, sometimes it was, first of all, you spend a lot of time in these talks where people are presenting and you're not necessarily interacting with other people, but it is very interesting. But people are very academic, and like sometimes it's a little bit hard to kind of bond with someone over the fact, they've spent their whole life in academia. And what I'm really trying to do is bridge that gap between like, okay, these are things that are being researched. How could it be useful in industry? And so it's sort of an art. You have to find common ground. You have to, it's just in a way basic social skills, but also, specific to the content of the conference that you're at.
Yeah, and you kind of have to be able to read the person and what their technical like level of skill is, and people will get annoyed if you tell them stuff that they already know.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do that. Don't be like the, well, actually guy. Just another note on Kai. It was kind of like you could tell a lot of people were there almost as part of their job. Like they weren't necessarily super, like it was a cool conference, but some people were like, they were there because as part of their PhD or as part of their master's thesis, they like needed to be there to present their work. Like it was, they wanted to be there. It's actually an honor to do it. But at the same time, you can tell that was part of their kind of like their profession. Whereas for me, I was there kind of just soaking it up. Like, what the hell is going on? So,
right.
Cool, Garrett. Well, thanks so much for joining me. If you don't know where Garrett is, he is at Ceresium, which is impossible to spell. So good luck finding it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you the story of how I came to that?
No, please share the story.
So I needed a username, and everything that came to mind was taken. So I decided, 7 letters is a good length. Is it 7? 8 letters is a good length. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I generated random character strings and told myself I would take the first thing that was pronounceable.
Oh, that's cool. It sounds like an element.
Like a periodic element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. No, that's a good story too. Well, thanks. I'm gonna stop the stream now.